Okay, so as I mentioned, this is the first introductory lesson to level two. This is a level two certificate in accounting course that we'll be looking at, and we'll be looking at the schedule for the delivery of the course today. Also, a little bit about myself and a little bit about the college, and we'll have a taster as well into the first lesson of level two. My name is, I should have mentioned my name earlier. My name is Jas Pabla. I've completed my AAT level 4 qualification, and I use that to help me with exemptions for ACCA, to do my chartered accounting for ACCA. I worked my way through level 4 before I went on to decide to do ACCA. A little bit about myself and my experience. So this is teaching is a new experience for me, and it's something that I've always had an interest in doing. But I have 10 years worth of relevant kind of industry experience working in various finance roles. I have a passion for learning and also for accounting and finance. As I mentioned before, I've done AAT all the way to level 4, and I use that to help me with passing my ACCA. So during my career, I've had a lot of I've worked with a lot of different people in terms of managing teams, also reporting to directors and owners of businesses. I'll talk a little bit more about kind of what my kind of career journey so far. So at university, I studied economics, and then after I used that, I wanted to use that to get into finance. I worked for Sainsbury's head office, which is in Holborn in London, starting off as a payroll clerk, so very kind of data entry, very manual. But I used that experience to help me to work in accounts payable. I did a bit of work in treasury as well. So kind of, you know, doing kind of supplier invoices, running payments every week. Then after Sainsbury's, I went to work for a fashion company, again doing kind of accounts payable, then moving into more kind of accounts assistant type of role, which helped me have a broader overview of all of the accounting functions. Then after bestseller, well, I at bestseller I was doing my AAT at Sainsbury's, then I finished my ACCA at the fashion company, and then I was able to become a financial controller, so looking after all of the fashion company and the stores within the UK, and reporting to the head office, which was in Denmark. After the fashion company, I wanted to challenge myself a bit more, so I went into an art gallery, worked there for a few years as a finance manager, very successful gallery. And now I'm working as a finance manager slash finance director for another fashion company based in Farringdon. Throughout my career, I've had a chance to look at so many different things in terms of payroll, supply payments, management accounts, VAT, dealing with auditors, in preparation of financial documents. Yeah, so I've so many. I don't want to list all of the things I've done because we'll cover these things in level two. But managed to have I've had a wide range of different finance functions and doing different things, and lucky to be involved in different projects in finance as well. And throughout my time in different careers, I've been able to work with different accounting platforms and build up my knowledge in terms of Excel as well. Okay. Looking at the schedule for level two, this will be shared with all of the students who sign up for level two. As I mentioned, today's session is just an introductory session to give you a bit of flavor about myself, about level two, and the schedule. As you can see here, most of the lessons will be on Sundays and Wednesdays. The timings here on Sundays might vary, but these are the preliminary timings that we have now. The times on Wednesdays are set, so they'll always start at 8 o'clock. As you can see here, we have 8 sessions for the first topic of introduction of bookkeeping, with the first session starting on the 22nd, which is Wednesday. So in about a couple of weeks from now, we'll have the first proper session on Wednesday, and going through all the way up until the last topic, the business environment, finishing on the 21st of May. So the introduction to bookkeeping, it's really looking at kind of the preparation, or the things to build the solid foundation to get to the point of looking at the financial accounting. So these two topics here, introduction and principles of bookkeeping controls, all really look into kind of financial accounting, and really build a good base and solid foundation for the preparation of the financial accounts, the statutory accounts such as profit and loss, balance sheet, and cash flow. And then the topics here, principles of costing, the business environment, and synoptic assessment, all really look at kind of management accounts. So when we say management accounts, we say we're looking at reports that help the business leaders make decisions about the business, and look at kind of how the business is performing. Financial accounting, we're kind of preparing the accounts to see what's happened already in the past, and to make sure we're capturing everything. And management accountants is also looking at the past, but help using those decisions to help us make decisions for the business going forward. So yeah, that's the schedule, and that will be put up and shared with anyone who will be who's purchased the course. And I'll be going through each of the topics in depth in each session, so you can expect going through the topic, going through different exercises, and kind of explaining the topics in depth. So there's a lot there to cover. There's a lot there to digest, but there are materials online and that the college will provide, and I'll also be setting question and answers online, which you can do, and which will help with your learning and your revision for the exam. Okay, so as I mentioned before, there's AAT level 1, which is not compulsory, you don't need to do, but it's something that I recently finished myself in terms of teaching and covering the topics. And it also offers a very good foundation in terms of setting you up for level 2. Having recently finished teaching this course, I can tell you that it does give a good foundation for anyone, even if they want to do exams, but it gives you a good concepts of how to work, the best ways to work, and gives you a very good overview of just kind of how a business operate, and how to be kind of a very good employee if you are working in the finance function. So the topics that were covered in level 1, how organizations operate, looked very much at kind of different business sectors. So if you had a business that worked in the retail sector, what's the difference between that business to working in a business in, for example, in manufacturing? So it kind of looked at kind of how business set themselves up, looked very much about the structure of a business, and the hierarchy of a business, which is also very important to kind of to know who you're reporting to. It also gives you a very good overview of your responsibilities within the business itself. The second topic in level 1 was using numbers in business. So obviously, as finance people, as accounting professionals, we need to know how to use numbers, obviously plus, minus, division, kind of covered the basis of mathematics. It used the topic of subtraction and addition in terms of profit and loss. So obviously looking at your sales, looking at your costs, this is a very a useful way to kind of introduce the topic of profit and loss and the difference between a net profit and gross profit. It also looked a difference at ratios and percentages. So it was kind of very good, very kind of basic level of mathematics that was introduced in this topic here. The second topic, the third one that we looked at in level 1 was tools and techniques to present numerical data. Sorry, excuse me. So this really looked at spreadsheets and the use of spreadsheets in businesses. So of course, we know if you are working currently in finance and accounting, or if you know people that work in finance and accounting, you know that spreadsheets are the main tool. And it's something, if you know how to use spreadsheets to different levels of skill, then you can be very useful in your organization and in your business. So I'm just going to see if there's anyone else. Sorry, yeah, one more person I'm going to admit. Okay. So yeah, as I mentioned, tools and techniques to present data. We're looking at spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are very important for businesses, and that whole lesson was looking at the use of spreadsheets. So it really looked at kind of formatting, how you would use the raw data and make it presentable if you were showing your manager or anyone else in the business. It looked at kind of some simple formulas, so how to sum up a table of numbers, how to use that to calculate percentages from those numbers, how to take away from different numbers. So again, it was a very useful topic. And that lesson, there's not really a PowerPoint presentation. It was an all live presentation on a spreadsheet on how we would use spreadsheets in the business, and kind of went through different examples and topics there. So very, very useful in general kind of finance and to build up your spreadsheet knowledge. Then the other topic in level 1 was developing skills for the workplace. So this really looked at kind of, as an example, if you started a business and you started a new role, kind of what you would expect from the company and what the company should expect from you. So it looked at different things such as in an induction, what you would expect from an induction, health and safety, kind of the, when you normally start a business, you're told the health and safety of the business, where the fire exits are, who's the fire marshal, who's the first aider. So it kind of looked at kind of the things that you would expect when you start a business. It also looked at sustainability, how businesses are more interested nowadays in sustainability, and not just environmental sustainability, but kind of business sustainability as well. It looked at kind of professional behavior also, and the qualities that are expected from yourself and what's expected from your manager. So it kind of looked at, explored topics such as respect, trust, responsibility, and the qualities that you need there. It also looked into cybersecurity, data, and how to secure data and fraud, which is becoming much more prevalent nowadays, where you have hackers or cyber criminals who are trying to infiltrate businesses and get information or get money out of a business. All of that is covered in cybersecurity. Fraud, obviously, fraud is anyone can commit fraud, and as a finance person, as a bookkeeper, you have access to very sensitive information, and that information can be used and abused, especially in a position that we have in finance. So it looked at all the different types of fraud that can be committed in finance. The fourth topic we looked at in level one was time management and communication skills. So time management was very important because obviously in businesses, everyone has deadlines that they need to commit to and to stick to. So it looked at different tools we have, so different planning aids we can use to make sure that we do our jobs on time, such as to-do lists, having diaries, having online collaboration tools. So it looked at kind of different ways that we work and keep on top of the tasks that we need, and also how we can effectively communicate with our team members. Talking about communication, it looked at kind of informal, formal language, so the difference there, and kind of how we would use the different type of language we would use when we were talking to a stakeholder, let's say outside of the business, and the different types of language we'd use to someone that we'd talk to a team member. So obviously the language you'd use internally with our team member would be different to a customer that we would be speaking to. So it looked at the different types of language there. It looked at kind of effective email writing, and how to make sure that emails are, when you're writing an email, how to make it effective in terms of what you want, what you're trying to get from the email, how to keep it short, how to keep it concise to the point. It looked at the different types of ways that businesses communicate. So looked at the use of letters, the use of presentations, the use of reports. Yeah, so it looked at different ways that how communication is spread within the business as well. It also covered verbal communication, so a very interesting topic, kind of when you have face-to-face meetings. Obviously, before the pandemic, meetings were done more face-to-face. If you had to travel somewhere for a meeting, you'd get on a flight to travel somewhere to speak to someone, but now we have Zoom, so you kind of lose the face-to-face. And when you have a face-to-face meeting with someone, there's more things to consider, such as body language and tone, which you don't get when you're on a Zoom meeting or a Zoom session. So yeah, it kind of looked at verbal communication and body language there. Then the other topic we looked at was the principles of sales and purchases. So it kind of looked at the difference between income versus expenditure, which we'll look at a little bit today in today's taster session. And then this led on to the profit and loss, and what it means to a business when they make a profit, what it means to a business when they make a loss. Obviously, when a business makes a profit, they're making more income than the expenditure, and that profit is usually divided to the stakeholders of the business, or used to reinvest into the business, for an example, to buy another office, to buy another shop, or to buy a van for the business, for example. It also looked the difference between credit and cash, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. So the difference between a credit and a cash in terms of purchases and sales, which we'll look at. I'll talk about a little bit more. Then the final topic we looked at level one was kind of business documentation and procedure. This was a good introduction into looking at the different documents, especially within accounting and finance. So we looked at purchase orders, so what to expect on a purchase order, what to expect from a sales order, an invoice, what you would want to see on invoice, for example, the company name, who you're invoicing, an invoice number, invoice date, a description of the goods and services that you're selling, the bank details, if you're VAT registered, the VAT number, the company number. So it looked at all of the things you'd expect to see on an invoice. It also was a good way to look at VAT and the introduction of VAT and who's eligible to pay VAT, and the different rates of VAT. It's not just 20%, because we have some items and goods that are not VATable or exempt for VAT, or have a different VAT charge on them. We also looked at the different types of payments. So, for example, a BACS payment. So if you make payments within your business, or you're in accounts payable, you might have access to the bank and you have to put on payments to suppliers on there. Then it looked at different between a BACS payment and a faster payment on there. So that was an overview, a quick overview of all what we were covered in level one, and giving a solid foundation to go into to level two. It's not compulsory. There was an exam. There's not an exam at the end of this. But if you do the course, you complete the lessons online, then you get a little certificate from the college, and that has an accreditation, and you can show that to your employees that you've completed this course. As I mentioned, it offers a solid foundation if you want to carry on your studies. It gives you very kind of practical knowledge, practical skills to use in the workplace, and makes you much more credible to employees. So level two, looking at level two and the introduction to bookkeeping, you have here a whole example of the course content that's covered in level two. So you have the accounting system. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today and go through an example of that today of the accounting system. And we have financial documents, double entry and accounting equation. So a lot's covered in here and offers a very solid foundation to go forward. And if you can understand this double entry accounting equation, it puts you in a very good standing for the future and in terms of your whole kind of not just your studies, but as a finance person, as an accounting person, gives you a very good solid understanding. If you can understand double entry and accounting, and if you ever get stuck when you're in your work or you have a problem in accounting, this is a very good principle to have to understand and help you get the answers. Then accounting for sales, returns, discounts, process of receipts from customers, financial documents for purchases, accounting for purchases, returns and discounts, process payments to suppliers, cash book, petty cash, and trial balance. So this is the course content which we'll be delivering going forward. When you look at all of this, it might seem like a lot, but when you go through it, you do get a very good understanding, and you might see that it actually a lot of, if you are currently working or studying, you can apply this to your day-to-day and your job at the moment. So once completing level two, what type of jobs can you go for, apply for? So the type of jobs you're looking at are kind of accounts assistant, purchase ledger clerk, sales ledger clerk, are the type of roles that you can go into after this. So as I mentioned today's session is a very, very kind of brief introduction of the course, of what about myself, and we're just going to look very briefly into the accounting system. So this is a taster. This is like the first few slides of the actual lesson that will start on the 22nd of February. So I'm just going to go through today very quickly, just a brief introduction of the accounting system, the process, kind of different financial transactions, what's the importance of doing this, and then a small activity at the end just to get our brains going. So financial transactions. So here's a kind of list of different transactions we'd expect to see in our day-to-day operation of in finance and accounting and business. So common transactions you might see. So when we're selling goods and services, so every business is, most businesses are selling something, a good or a service. When we get an immediate payment, it's known as a cash sale. So when we sell a good or service and the money comes into our bank account straight away at the point of sale, that's known as an immediate payment. So you might get that payment in terms of money, physical money, so like notes or coins. But a payment via credit card or a debit card is also immediate because the money's coming straight into our account. So that's also referred to as a cash sale. So when we sell the good on service and we get the money at a later date, so we usually have a credit agreement in place with that customer, so they will pay at a later date. So if I sell my goods now, and the person is going to pay me in 30 days time, that's known as a credit sale. Usually if I invoice someone, it'll have on there when they pay me, and if it's not immediate payment or if it's payment at a later date, then it's referred to as a credit sale. So that's kind of when we're selling something. If we're purchasing something, for example, and these are all examples of different transactions. So when we're paying, for an invoice, we might pay via check or electronically. When we're buying an item, for example, delivery van, that will be considered different to something we're purchasing, for example, for the office. Also, what we'll cover is when we're buying fuel on a company credit card, we would treat all of these different type of purchases that we're talking about here are treated slightly different in terms of how we will record them in the accounting process, and where they would go in our books. Then, for example, you might be buying postage using, you might have a petty cash box in the office, and you use that cash to buy things around the office, for example, milk or stamps or, plants for the office. So these type of transactions all kind of have to be recorded in different ways, and we have to keep in mind how we're paying for them and what the purchase is actually for. Third type of very common transactions is money going in and out of the bank. And everything that we looked at before this is money going in and out of the bank. So, for example, cash, checks, electronic payments, paying wages, taking money out. These are all very, very common things that happen in the day-to-day running of a business. And these are all financial transactions that we as accountants will have to account for and record in our accounting system. So what's the importance? Why are we doing this? Why do we need to keep track? So, every business needs to keep track of expenses and purchases. So money going out, wages paid, what each customer owes us, and when the money is due. So this is something very, very important. So we, as a business, obviously we need to collect money from our customers. If customers pay straight away, then there's nothing to collect, the money's collected. But if we have credit customers, we need to keep on top of them and make sure that they pay on time when they said they were going to pay. Because if we don't keep on top of them, they might not pay. They might become a bad debt, and it gives us a prompt. So if they forget or if they're late, then we can chase them. So again, very important to keep track of who owes us what money. Obviously, we need to keep on track on when we need to pay suppliers. So on the reverse side, if we have an agreement we bought some goods, but we don't have to pay within 30 days or 60 days, we need to make sure that we pay on time. So recording these accurately in the accounting system will prompt us to pay on the correct time, on the right time. Amounts paid into the bank and out of the bank. Of course, we need to, as accountants, everything that happens within the business, the flow of money going in and out, we have to record, because whatever's happening in real life, in the bank account, money coming in, money coming out, we have to make sure that we're reflecting in our accounting system what's happening in real life, whether it's someone buying a stamp, whether it's someone buying a van, whether it's a customer paying us. We all have to keep a record of this, and the whole purpose of all of this is keeping a record of all of the transactions. And then these transactions go into reports which help the managers, the owners of the business, being able to make decisions about the business. It also helps us to know how much tax we need to pay or how much tax is due to us. It also helps us to know whether the business is making a profit or a loss, which is, the whole point of a business is we want to be making money, we want to be making a profit. And the only way to do that is to be able to make sure that we're keeping accurate records of everything that's going on in the business. So we'll finish today's introductory lesson on on the first lesson with an activity. So asking ourselves the question of which is either correct. So if we have a cash sale in accounting terms, what does that mean? So we know that we've talked about today, a cash sale is something that's an immediate sale. So when we've sold a good or a product, then we receive payment for that good or product straight away. So if we look at the options here, so option A says a sale involving notes and coins, a sale requiring immediate payment, or a sale requiring payment in the future. So we know that a cash sale means that it's an immediate payment. So we know that the correct answer is A and B. So we know that when we receive, in terms of accounting sales, that a payment that refers to as cash is an immediate. We receive the payment for that immediately, whether it's through money or whether it's through our banking system. When the sale is the money is going to be received at a later point, we know that it's referred to as a money we're going to receive in the future. So that is actually a credit sale, in terms of not a cash sale. It's a credit sale. So that is the activity. That is the short question. As I mentioned today, it was a very kind of brief introduction of the overview of level 2, what we'll be covering. I talked about the schedule. I talked about the very briefly about level 1, and we looked a little bit, a very quick session on kind of the beginning topic, beginning lesson of level 2, an introduction of bookkeeping. I'm just going to show you the summary here, and then I'll finish the recording, and then we can talk and have a chat if you have any questions. So if you have any questions about the exams, the course content, or any kind of generic general admin questions, you can email this email address here. And what I'll do now is I'm going to finish the recording, and then we can, if there's any questions or chat, then we can do that now. So I'm just going to stop the recording.